Another interesting set of rules is regarding animal abuse, where I would like to not have animal abuse occur. But what is animal abuse? That's complicated. And I know I want to raise rabbits and chickens and maybe emus, and that does involve the evil slaughter of animals. It is murder. Meat is murder. Uh, but I want those systems to function. We've enjoyed eating meat for a very long time. From rabbits, we also get clothing, which is hard for us to make, but all those furs can get tanned, and we can have really warm clothing, so we're not cold. That could even create products that we sell elsewhere. So that is a form, if you believe that any way that you could possibly raise rabbits or chickens is inherently animal abuse, like you're a vegan, for example, then you're not going to agree with that. Right over there, there's a rooster crowing that is in a little cage. I don't want roosters in little cages. I don't want hens in little cages. There's a dog over there tied up. I don't want dogs that live their whole life tied up, or really hardly any of it. It should be really rare. But dogs are another problem, right? And they're a great problem. I'm very pro-dog. But we're going to have rules about how that gets handled. Like, do you need to sterilize your animal? If an animal is a problem and bites someone, well, most of us can agree that's very bad behavior. You know, some dog bites a kid. I mean, there's places in the world where, dogs kill kids sometimes. That should never, in the design of the entire space, that should never even happen. That shouldn't even be possible. And we should have dog trainers that train all the dogs to be good dogs. And we might even have rules in shared spaces outside of gated communities where dogs are on leashes in those spaces. I don't know. It's not like I'm not God channeling rules through to you. We have to make a template and then practice it, see how it works out, have that shake out over a number of years into a rule set that actually functions and works. Is it okay to have a bird in a cage? I don't think so. And I've had to deal with bird poachers coming into the forest and stealing birds, which is illegal. They're stealing wild birds from all of us, and they're selling them to be put in a cage where they can't reproduce, and they sing a pretty song for people. And when the bird sings it saying, "Please don't put me in a cage. I want to reproduce and fly free because I'm a bird. I'm a wild bird." So have some empathy for those beings and don't do that. That's a pretty controlling rule to say you can't have a bird in a cage. And maybe we decide we're going to build a big, huge greenhouse, and it's going to have a double door entry system, and we're going to have birds flying around in there. And we could have exotic birds that want to live in a hotter temperature or something, and that don't seem to mind living in this very large cage. So there can be exceptions. These are not fixed, simple rules. And each rule has exceptions. Each rule has, like, why do we have that rule? And then if we want to break it, how can we break it for maximum benefit, not just of humans, but for the whole environment, and that includes every animal that exists. I mean, is a fish tank evil? Well, a really big fish in a little fish tank, that seems wrong too. But how about koi in a big pond? Can we raise koi in a big pond where they have lots of space, and they get food, and they're protected from predators, and they're really cool looking? They're magic fish in Japan, and other people, of course, grow them too. We could set up a thing that reproduces koi. But then do we want to sell those koi to people who are going to keep them in tiny little ponds that we don't think are appropriate? Do we create an entire business that goes in and builds a pond for somebody? And then we have suggestions about how many koi you could really have in it. And we'll sell them the koi. It's a luxury item. I mean, they're not being raised for food especially. I mean, you can eat them. They're just carp. They're pretty carp is what they are. So they're one of the easier fish to grow. And that would be fun. We could even have underground spots with a window that you can see into the koi pond, so you can be at the koi's level. And you could even have lighting so that it's really pretty, and you could feed the koi right above that, and all these koi are getting all the food and stuff. It could be I think it'd be a great thing to do is to have koi. But I want to have them have really deep, big pools at exactly the right temperature that koi like. which is slightly hotter than the average temperature here, which means we might even have evacuated tube solar hot water heaters heating up that water to exactly the right level and monitor the hell out of that. That's an option. Cats are tough. People say to me, you know, you're whining about mice and rats. Why don't you get a cat? And it's like, well, I don't have good fences and cats get killed. I had one cat that lived for a long time. It had its own house. It was very careful. All the other cats I've gotten have been murdered by either wildlife or dogs. It's another reason to control dogs. So some spaces could be more cat friendly and others less cat friendly. So I'm not anti-cat, but we would pick the exact cats we would start with. I do like those bigger cats I've heard about that act kind of like dogs. You know, they're friendlier, and also they'd be able to defend themselves better. And so that'd be really cool. And then emus I've mentioned, just like geese or stuff like that, we could raise those. But in each case, we would be considering what is animal abuse. Now, if you want to kill a mosquito, kill a mosquito. I don't care. Murder the shit out of mosquitoes. They carry diseases. They're annoying. And we can control that by controlling all the water on the entire property. That's another weird rule set of like you can't leave standing water out, which causes mosquitoes to exist. That affects everybody if we don't control that, and could actually lead to life-threatening diseases. I don't have ticks in the forest, which is really weird because I guess a lot of places have ticks, so I don't have to worry as much about Lyme disease and stuff. And we can design enough human spaces that are animal-free, you know, that are really well-sealed houses, because that's why I have rats and mice problems, is because my buildings are built wrong. We could even raise rats and mice in very protected areas and then use them as food for snakes. Is that animal abuse? To raise snakes and then raise the food for the snakes? I don't know. Is that good to raise snakes? Are the snakes going to then get sold to go live in places where they don't have a happy snake life and they're going to be stuck in a terrarium or something? I'm not very motivated to raise snakes and sell them, but having a snake pit would be pretty cool. And we could even raise snakes that are endangered or other animals that are endangered now, and then raise them. I mean, that's more controversial because there could be laws about it too, and I don't want to break any laws very much because I don't like to deal with the state. I think then that brings up a whole nother set of rules about like don't do illegal shit. For the most part. I mean, not all laws are good, but where I live, the laws are pretty good. There's a lot of freedom where I live. And there's a lot of social freedom of like, people just don't care about a lot of uptight shit. I'm more uptight than most people. Like people have caged birds in town. I hear them. I'm against it. I'm not going to go to their house and try and impose my rules upon them. That is not the point. The point is people agreed to a rule set. They come in knowing that they're not going to be able to have birds in cages. If that's a really big issue for them, don't go to the space. Done. A harder set of rules is ones regarding if we have workshops. Like if we have a workshop, the no smoking rule becomes difficult because it limits the number of people that can come. Also, they're less motivated to follow that rule because they just don't give a shit. What if we created a space that was like a wellness center for people who are having problems with an addiction? Well, I assume that those kind of places have rules against bringing in the thing you're addicted to if the goal is to get you off of it, including getting people off eating shitty food. So I want rules about what food people can even bring in. That's pretty fucking fascist shit, isn't it? And maybe we have a whole vegan event that's focused. Like we could have one that's for fruitarians. They just eat fruit. It's kind of a really weird diet. I'm not sure if that's healthy. And so it's not top of my list to host those folks. But what if somebody comes from for a yoga workshop, right? Maybe different workshops have different rules. Maybe we have women-only ones and men-only ones. Not against doing that. Seems weird to me, but some people want to be in an all-male space or an all-female space. That's cool. Not against it. People got weird reasons for a lot of things that they could imagine they want. And that's what this video is doing, is asking you, about what your weird ideas are about what rules should or shouldn't exist. Animal abuse, though, I'm pretty clear on. Maybe we agree or we don't on that one. I don't know. Use of trees, use of wood. Nobody can just cut down a tree anywhere without the approval of whoever is the group ownership system of that group of trees, which means each community has its own rules about how you harvest things out of the forest. And also the shared community land has rules about how we harvest out of that as well. And what's cool about that level of planning is we could actually grow whole groves of things that were grown for a particular purpose. We can have groves of trees that are designed to grow firewood, where we can coppice and pollard different trees and make it so we have easy, correctly sized wood that we can just chop up real quick. We don't even have to split wood. We can get rid of the task of having to split wood for many cases, not all, because we're growing wood that serves a particular purpose. We can grow pine trees for resin, and that resin has a highest use because it's really combustible. I mean, it burns like crazy. And you can also make cleaning products out of it and rosin for violin bows. Pretty limited market there. But we can be using all resources in the forest for maximal benefit because they're a shared resource. Wildlife is a whole other topic where I want to have large amounts of spaces set aside for wildlife. And I just think it's part of our duty as people to make sure that wildlife has a lot of space to be. And probably not any of it for hunting, except squirrels, which I mentioned in some other video. I do apologize for repeating what I say a lot, but it's because I'm using you to process thoughts, and I'm seeing how these thoughts all connect together. And so it's going to happen. AI will edit all these videos later and make it into a coherent whole for you. And that will make you not have to waste a bunch of time listening to me ramble on about the same fucking shit I rambled on about before.